Dawn. The first light hasn't reached the mortal world yet, but on the summit of Mount Olympus, the sky is already burning gold. This is where the gods live, not metaphorically. The ancient Greeks believed this was a real place, a physical mountain in northern Greece that pierced through the clouds into a realm no human could survive. And what waited at the top wasn't just a temple or a throne. It was an entire divine civilization. Palaces of bronze and marble, feasts that never ended, arguments that shook the earth. I used modern AI tools to reconstruct what a single day on Mount Olympus actually looked like, based on Homer, Hesiod, Pindar, and centuries of ancient Greek texts. We are going to walk through 24 hours on the mountain of the gods. From the moment Eos brings the dawn to the hour the last Olympian falls asleep. Every meal, every argument, every secret. This is Mount Olympus, and for one day, you are invited. The mountain itself. Before we step inside, you need to understand what Olympus was. The real Mount Olympus stands in Thessaly, northern Greece. At nearly 3,000 meters, it is the tallest mountain in the country. Its peaks are hidden in clouds, and the ancient Greeks looked up at this mountain every day and believed that above those clouds, the gods held court. But Homer is clear. The divine Olympus was not the rocky summit. It was something beyond it. In the Odyssey, he describes a place where no wind blows, no rain falls, and no snow settles. A white radiance covers everything. This was a paradise above the sky, permanently bathed in golden light and warm, still air. Think of the most beautiful Greek day you can imagine. Warm sun, blue sky, a light breeze carrying the scent of flowers. Now imagine that day never ends. That's Olympus. The entrance was guarded by the Horae, the goddesses of the seasons. They controlled a gate of thick clouds that opened and closed to let gods pass through. No mortal could survive the ascent. This was the most exclusive address in the Greek cosmos. 12 permanent residents, a handful of allowed visitors, and an eternity of divine luxury. Dawn, the palace of Zeus. The day begins when Eos, the goddess of the dawn, rises from her golden throne and opens the gates of heaven to let the sun through. Her fingers are famously rosy, and Homer never tires of reminding us. As the first light spills across Olympus, the mountain comes alive. At the center of everything stands the palace of Zeus. This was not a single building. Ancient sources describe it as an enormous complex of halls, courtyards, and colonnades built by Hephaestus, the god of the forge, entirely from bronze, gold, and polished stone. The floors were golden, the walls shimmered, the doors opened and closed by themselves, moved by some divine mechanism. Hephaestus was the architect of Olympus, and everything he built was both beautiful and impossibly functional. Zeus rises from a bed of ivory and gold in the innermost chamber. Beside him lies Hera, his wife and queen, the goddess of marriage whose own palace rivaled her husband's in splendor. Zeus doesn't rush. He is the king of the gods, the father of men, the wielder of the thunderbolt. He moves with the weight of absolute power. When he nods, the whole of Olympus trembles. Homer says that single gesture shakes the foundations of the mountain. His first act each morning is to walk to his great throne in the assembly hall and survey the world below. From his seat, Zeus can see everything, every city, every army, every ship on the sea, every prayer rising from every temple. The throne itself was made by Hephaestus from polished black marble, inlaid with gold and precious stones, with armrests carved as eagles, Zeus's sacred bird. When he sits, the other thrones remain empty until he permits the gods to gather. Nothing happens on Olympus without his knowledge, and nothing happens in the mortal world without his attention. Morning, the forges of Hephaestus, while Zeus surveys the world. The sound of hammering rings across Olympus. This is Hephaestus, already at work in his forge. Hephaestus was the only Olympian who worked with his hands. The other gods feasted, argued, and seduced. Hephaestus built. His workshop on Olympus was a marvel. 20 golden tripods that moved by themselves, rolling to and from the banquet hall on golden wheels. Mechanical servants made entirely of gold, shaped like young women, who could think and speak and assist him at the anvils. These weren't metaphors. Homer describes them as genuine automatons, artificial beings with intelligence built into their golden bodies. The god of the forge invented robots 3,000 years before the word existed. His forge burned with divine fire hotter than any mortal flame. Here he crafted the weapons and armor of the gods, the thunderbolts of Zeus, the trident of Poseidon, the shield of Achilles, described by Homer in extraordinary detail, depicting cities at war and at peace, farmlands, vineyards, dancing grounds, and the great river Oceanus circling the rim. Hephaestus made the crowns, the chariots, the jewelry, and the palaces themselves. Every beautiful object on Olympus came from his hands, and yet the other gods mocked him. He was lame, the only physically imperfect Olympian. His own mother Hera had thrown him from Olympus at birth because she was ashamed of his deformity. He fell for an entire day before landing on the island of Lemnos. He returned eventually, but the rejection shaped him. While the other gods played, Hephaestus created. While they judged by appearances, he proved that the most powerful god on Olympus might be the one who could actually make things. Mid-morning, Athena's war room. By mid-morning, the goddess who never rests is already deep in strategy. Athena doesn't have a traditional palace on Olympus in the way Zeus or Hera do. She has something more useful, a space filled with maps, armor, and the tools of warfare and wisdom. Athena was Zeus's favorite child. She was born directly from his head, fully grown and already wearing armor. No mother, no childhood. She arrived in the world complete, screaming a war cry that made the sky shake. Of all the Olympians, she was the one most involved in mortal affairs. She guided heroes personally. She whispered tactics into the ears of generals. She appeared on battlefields disguised as ordinary soldiers to turn the tide of war. But Athena wasn't just a war goddess. That was Ares, and the Greeks mostly despised him. Athena was the goddess of strategic intelligence. She valued cunning over brute force, planning over rage. On Olympus, she spent her mornings reviewing the state of the mortal world, deciding which cities deserved her protection and which heroes needed her guidance. She was the head of divine intelligence, the strategist who operated while the other gods were still finishing breakfast. She also wove. This detail surprises people, but weaving was considered one of the highest arts in ancient Greece, and Athena was its master. When the mortal woman, Arachne, dared to challenge her, Athena's rage was legendary. Even her domestic arts were weapons. Midday, the great feast. By noon, the Olympians gather for what defines their daily existence. The feast. The gods ate ambrosia and drank nectar. These weren't symbolic. They were actual divine substances that sustained immortality. If a mortal tasted ambrosia, they would become immortal. If they drank nectar, divine blood called ichor would begin to flow in their veins. The food of the gods was the source of their power, and it was served every single day in the great hall of Zeus. Picture the scene. 12 thrones arranged in a semicircle in an enormous hall of polished bronze and gold. The ceiling opened to the eternal blue sky of Olympus. Zeus at the center, Hera beside him, Poseidon, Demeter, Athena, Apollo, Artemis, Ares, Aphrodite, Hephaestus, Hermes, and Dionysus filling the rest. Each throne was unique, designed to reflect its owner. Apollo's was gold inlaid with sun symbols. Poseidon's was gray-green stone carved with sea creatures. Ares' throne was brass, rough and scarred. The serving was done by Hebe, the goddess of youth, and Ganymede, the most beautiful mortal ever born, whom Zeus had snatched from the earth to serve as cupbearer. Ganymede poured the nectar. Hebe carried the ambrosia. Apollo played his golden lyre, while the 9 muses sang. Homer describes this scene with genuine awe. The music, the light, the food, the eternal beauty of the divine assembly. This was the Greek vision of paradise. But the feasts were not always peaceful. In fact, they almost never were. The gods argued constantly. Zeus and Hera fought about his affairs with mortal women. Ares and Athena clashed over whose approach to war was superior. Aphrodite caused jealousy simply by existing. Hephaestus once caught Aphrodite in bed with Ares and trapped them both in an unbreakable golden net, then invited all the gods to come look. Some laughed. Hermes said he would happily trade places with Ares. The feasts of Olympus were magnificent, but they were also Greek drama at its purest. Afternoon, Apollo and Artemis. After the feast, the twin children of Zeus go their separate ways, as they always do. Apollo drives his golden chariot across the sky, pulling the sun from east to west. His horses are immortal, breathing fire, their hooves striking sparks from the heavens. From Olympus, the other gods can watch his blazing path across the blue. Apollo is the god of light, music, poetry, prophecy, and healing. He is the most versatile Olympian, impossibly talented at everything. His afternoon is spent guiding the sun, but even in motion, mortals reach him through prayer. His oracle at Delphi channels his voice through the Pythia priestess, delivering cryptic prophecies that shaped the fate of nations. His twin sister Artemis goes in the opposite direction. While Apollo blazes across the sky, Artemis disappears into the wild forests that cover the lower slopes of Olympus. She is the goddess of the hunt, the moon, and the wilderness, and she prefers the company of her nymph companions to the politics of the divine court. Artemis carries a silver bow and silver arrows, and she never misses. She is fierce, independent and protective of her privacy to a deadly degree. The hunter Actaeon stumbled upon her bathing, and she turned him into a stag and let his own dogs tear him apart. The twins represent something fundamental about how the Greeks understood the world. Apollo is civilization, order, reason, art. Artemis is nature, instinct, wildness, freedom. Every afternoon on Olympus, these two forces separate and do their work. The sun crosses the sky, the hunt runs through the forest, and the world stays in balance because both halves are functioning. Evening, Hermes returns. As the sun begins to descend, a figure appears at the cloud gates of Olympus, moving faster than anything alive. Hermes, the messenger god, returning from the mortal world. Hermes is the busiest Olympian. While the others sit on their thrones and watch, Hermes actually goes down. He delivers messages between gods. He guides souls to the underworld. He protects travelers, merchants, and thieves. He invented the lyre, the alphabet, weights and measures, and the art of making fire. He is the god of communication itself, the divine link between every realm. His winged sandals carry him between worlds in moments. He lands on Olympus each evening with news from below, with messages from other gods, with gossip and intelligence, and the thousand small tasks that keep the divine bureaucracy running. Zeus trusts Hermes more than any other god for practical matters because Hermes actually gets things done without starting a war or a love affair in the process. On this particular evening, Hermes brings word from the mortal world. A war is brewing. A king has offended a god. A hero has been born. The business of Olympus is the business of humanity, and every evening the two worlds sink through the fastest god alive. Night. Olympus sleeps. The sun has set. Apollo's chariot has completed its arc. Across the sky, Artemis raises the moon. The evening on Olympus is for wine and music. Sire Dionysus, the youngest Olympian, the god of wine, ecstasy, and theatre, ensures the night is never quiet. He was the only Olympian with a mortal mother, and several gods initially refused to accept him. But Dionysus earned his throne by spreading his gift across the entire mortal world. The night feast is looser than the midday assembly. Gods recline on golden couches. The muses perform. Aphrodite moves through the room like a force of nature, her beauty so overwhelming that even other gods lose their composure. Ares sits in a corner, sharpening his spear. Hera watches Zeus with the suspicion of a wife who has been betrayed 100 times. One by one, the Olympians retire to their individual palaces. Hephaestus built each one to reflect its owner. Ares's palace was fortified. Aphrodite's was surrounded by gardens of roses. Apollo's gleamed with golden light even at night. Artemis's was simple, filled with hunting trophies and the pelts of sacred animals. Zeus is the last to sleep. He sits on his throne in the dark, watching the mortal world below. Cities glow with hearth fires. Ships move across moonlit seas. He sees all of it. He controls none of it entirely. Even the king of the gods is bound by fate. Finally he rises. The father of gods and men walks to his chamber where Hera waits, and Olympus falls into divine sleep. The mountain is silent. The cloud gates are closed. The golden halls are dark, but Eos is already preparing. In a few hours, her rosy fingers will open the sky again, and the whole magnificent, chaotic, beautiful cycle will begin once more. Because the gods don't change. They don't age. They don't learn. They just keep being themselves, also forever in the golden light above the clouds. What should I reconstruct next? Drop a comment below.